Hi friends, it's Danielle with Take Care Mama, and today I'm talking about the books I read in the month of February 2021. I have my little try it a bullet journal, although I need to add one of them. I read 9 books this month, which is bananas to me, literally. I think it was a pretty good month rating wise. I did have 1 2-star rating, 1 3-star, and the rest 4 and 5 stars. So I'm gonna start with the lowest and end with my 3 5 stars. My lowest is a novel that I listened to on audio. I don't love listening to novels on audio, but I needed to for this one. My library didn't have it this month, and it is called When No One Is Watching. I wanted to like this book so much. It is a thriller, and it is around gentrification of a New York City neighborhood. So the white people are moving in, the black people are moving out, and it is a thriller, and so maybe something more nefarious is happening here. A lot of the main woman's neighbors are literally just disappearing without saying goodbye, and so there is a mystery wrapped up in that. My problem with this book was the pacing. I've heard criticism of this book and that white people don't understand that it's a thriller. I understand it was a thriller. I thought it was a thriller the whole way through. However, I thought that the climax came too late and then everything was buttoned up. It just felt off to me the whole way through. The pacing didn't work for me, and yeah, sometimes I wonder if I would have liked it better if I read it physically. I don't really think so. The reason I read When No One Is Watching is for the Literally Dead book club by Books and Lala, and I'm really excited to watch that live and to see what other people thought of it. So moving on, let's see my 3-star. Oh, The Silent Patient. I took that back to the library. Oh, I have a whole reading vlog on this, so you can watch that. I'll link that above and below. I liked this. I did not love it, as so many people do, but I liked it a lot. It is a good thriller, and I don't want to give too much away, but if you want a little more of a peek into what I thought of it, check out that short reading vlog. I have 3 4-star ratings. Let's see, we'll talk about The Green Mile first by Stephen King. I'm trying to read 1 Stephen King a month. I'm new to Stephen King. I believe this is my 3rd Stephen King book. I also have a video on this where I talk about my thoughts on the book, and then I watched the movie for the first time and talked about the different things. I loved this book. I gave it a 4-star. Surprisingly, as I say in that video, I like the movie even better. Usually when I love a book, I expect to like the movie a little less. But in this case, I think this story does better on screen. But it's a very good story. It's very dark. If you don't know, it deals with basically a death row situation in the 1930s. There is it's a fantasy. There are some magical elements. Very hard to read about the electric chair, which is what they use. And I think I said in that video that while I'm new to Stephen King, the few books that I have read have all been heavy, but there's a sweetness to them. And I found a sweetness to this story. I don't think I mentioned it in that vlog, which I'll link, but I love a good opening sentence to a book. And maybe even more, I appreciate a good closing sentence. And this closing sentence brought a couple tears to my eyes. It was just very good. I'm gonna read it because it doesn't give anything away. We each owe a death. There are no exceptions. I know that, but sometimes, oh God, the Green Mile is so long. Amazing. My next 4-star, let's do this one, Specimen Days by Michael Cunningham. I'm a big fan of his novel, The Hours. I love that movie, so I wanted to get this. This was a difficult read. I almost wish I would have read it on the Kindle because you have easy access to a dictionary that way. He is very intelligent, He uses words I don't understand. I think I missed a lot of metaphors. Despite all that, I loved it. 4 stars. This, like The Hour, is split up into 3 stories. The 3 stories could almost be standalones. It's basically 3 novellas back to back. And it's so interesting because each novella in this book is a completely, not only is it in a completely different time, but it's a completely different genre, which is just, I feel like kind of amazing to put 3 genre novellas into one book and have them still relate to one another. So the first story is taking place in the Industrial Revolution in New York City, and it's a bit of a ghost story, the first story. The second story is like a detective story, also in New York City. New York is a common thread. It's more in it's in the present day, and it's about someone trying to find basically some domestic terrorists. The third story is set in New York City as well in the future, and we're dealing with robots and aliens, and in the end it's a love story. And they all relate together. Not only is New York City a common thread, but there are 3 characters in each story, and they all have the same names, though I don't think they're supposed to be the same person. Maybe some people read it that way, but there's always a man, a woman, and a child, and they have the same names. I almost forgot. The other big thing that weaves these stories together is Walt Whitman's poems are influencing each of these stories, and they're referenced in each of the stories. And I think this book is a commentary on humanity's relationship with death and humanity's relationship with machines. I really, really like this. I don't think it's for everyone. It's strange, it's weird, it's difficult. I know a lot went right over my head, but I really like Michael Cunningham. So very glad I read this. 4 stars. My last 4-star I finished last night, The Woman in the Window by AJ Finn. This is going to be a Netflix film with Amy Adams coming out in a couple months. I watched the trailer this morning and I'm excited. So this is another thriller mystery. To be honest, I've been a little down on thrillers lately, and just wondering if maybe I need to take a break from thrillers. They haven't been as exciting to me the last few I read. I liked this one a lot. I gave it 4 stars. Really close to 5 stars. It reminds me of A Girl on the Train, which is funny because the title is similar. So we have a woman, middle-aged woman, New York City. She is, I forget the word, but she has an anxiety disorder where she's a recluse. She is afraid to go outside. So she's like stuck in her house. She has a handyman come over to help with things. Everything's delivered. She'll like faint if she leaves the house. It's very serious. She is on a lot of medication for her issues. She's not taking them responsibly. She's self-medicating with alcohol, and with all of her time, or some of her time, being locked up in her house. Norma's behind me if you hear weird noises. Bye! She has several hobbies, one of them being she likes to spy on her neighbors. And one night she sees something and the police, and so she calls 911, and there's this whole thing. And because of her unique situation, people don't believe what she saw. I just read someone who I like's critique of this, that they figured out one of the twists early on. And I think I know what she's talking about. And I too guessed one of the big twists early on. But I actually think the author kind of geniusly gave us that twist and made it easy for us to contemplate, is this what's really happening? Because at least for me, while I was busy being annoyed at myself for figuring out that twist so easily, I was distracted and I didn't see other things coming at all. I really, really like this book. Even though people love it, I did not have high expectations going into it. I'm kind of anti books that are so hyped up sometimes, and this has been really hyped up. I really think this is worth it. It is my favorite thriller I've read in a really long time. The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. I have one more 4-star. I think I misspoke before, but Grown was another 4-star rating for me. I did not plan to read this, but I saw this in I think it's called the Late Night Book Club, which I will link each book club below. And I had a little bit extra time. I'd heard other people really like this and I thought I would pick this up. I had trouble rating it because I'm not a YA fan. But for a YA, in my opinion, this was really, really good. It is about a young Black woman named Enchanted. I love her name, and I love this cover. This is my favorite cover that I have read in a long time. And she is trying to break into the music industry. This is based on the R. Kelly situation, but it's done in a YA format. It's very hard to read. It's very disturbing, but it is YA, so it's not super graphic. I really liked it. I think it's important. I hope young girls read this. And just aside, if you haven't seen the R.L. Kelly documentary, I think it's on Netflix now. It's very graphic, very adult, very hard to watch, and I think very important. Okay, I have 3 5-stars. The first 2 were both memoirs, both on Audible. Let's talk about Glennon Doyle's Untamed first. I have so many similarities to Glennon Doyle. I'm shy, I'm quiet, I'm a thinker, I have anxiety, just lots of things in common, and I loved it. I really, really loved it. It's one of those books that also has a ton of hype around it right now, and I say well warranted. The other 5-star memoir that I read is Between the World and Me by Tahari Coates. And man, I love this too. Both authors narrated the audio versions, which I really like in a memoir. And so he is a Black man, and this book is a love letter to his son, who's, I don't know, maybe 10. It's a love letter to his son about being a Black American, and it just made me cry. I really love his writing, and I really loved his narration, and I think this is such a good book to read. It's quick too. It's a shorter book, so I really encourage you to add this one to your nonfiction list. Lastly, the best for last. I loved this so much. 5 stars, An American Marriage by Tahari Jones. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. I picked this up for Liz Gilbert's book club called Onward, in which every month she picks a book written by a female woman of color. I love this book so much, I almost want to do a whole separate video on this. It's about a marriage. A young Black couple in Atlanta, Georgia, present day, both on the up and up, both very successful in their careers. They have a good amount of money. They are really looking forward to not only their marriage, but their career, their life. And the husband is accused and convicted of a crime he didn't commit. And then we watch how that affects their marriage, their family. I don't love giving lots of details when I discuss books because I don't want to spoil it for anyone. I am going to talk a little bit more about this. In my opinion, I'm not going to say anything that you cannot glean from the synopsis, but he goes to prison and there is kind of a love triangle situation here. What I appreciated most about this book is you really don't know who to root for. At least I didn't. And actually, I read some reviews from people I know, and one of them, who did not like this book, didn't like it because she felt like she couldn't connect to any of the characters. And what I read between her lines is she didn't know who to root for. And that's why I loved this book. You know, there are many books with the simple villain and the simple heroine, and the villain is so evil and the heroine is so pure. You know who you're rooting for. And those are fun stories, and those are good stories, and great stories. But it is my opinion that all of us are mostly good and trying the best we can. And so the fact that we didn't know who to root for, all three are very flawed. All three are mostly good. It was realistic and it was heart-wrenching. And I put a lot of thought into how should this end? What is fair for everyone? Because the whole situation was a sucky situation, obviously. The other thing that I appreciated is we never questioned whether he was guilty. The author made that clear. It might have been interesting if it was more of a mystery, but that wasn't the point of this book. The point of this book is that this happens a lot, and the effects are enormous, not only on the man in prison, but those he left behind. Bye. I love the pacing of this. The first act is kind of setting up the story, and the second act are letters between the husband and wife from prison, and it's so good. They start out joyful and hopeful, and then you can sense the distance in the letters to each other, the anger, the resentment. So good. And do you see the tree? There's a metaphor of a tree. Oprah picked it for her book club. Elizabeth Gilbert is why I read this for her February 2021 book club pick. The live was a few days ago. It's saved on our Instagram with the author. I'm definitely going to read more from this woman. I loved it a lot. You need to read this book. So good. So there you have it, the 9 books I read in February, and I'm excited for March. Sneak peek. House of Leaves. I read the introduction this morning and I'm already terrified. So we'll see. I'm not sure if I'm going to actually finish this. Have a wonderful day. Do you want to see my cute journal that I showed you at the beginning? That's what it looks like now. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and